and they didn't try to find anyone in the theater. Hey, someone's car's on fire.
You just walk out of the movie theater
and your car's gone.
Oh, man. Did it burn anyone else's cars?
We don't know. The cars were moved that were around it.
Did it cause, they got a hold of everyone else but you. And it's funny because when you're in the theater, they're like, please shut off your cell phone.
Shut it off so we can't tell you your car's on fire.
Exactly.
Welcome to the Couch Trolls Podcast with your hosts, Dave and Das Bruce.
How you doing, man?
Not too bad. How about yourself?
Pretty good. What you been up to?
Well, I just found out The Shape of Water. Excellent movie. I feel like I saw my first real monster flick in probably 10 years.
What do you mean monster? Like
classic monster.
Okay, because it kind of looks like a Creature of the Black Lagoon type thing going on.
Well, they advertise it as Beauty and the Beast with some aquafish guy.
It looks like it's funny because it's directed by Guillermo del Toro, right?
Yep.
And he looks like Abe Sapien from Hellboy.
He looks exactly like that, but
might be the same actor too.
Small differences, but he's more humanistic than they kind of portray it in the commercials, because in the commercials you're always seeing him in water. In the movie you see him a lot out of water. But what's crazy about that movie is it advertises a Beauty and the Beast, kind of mysterious Beauty and the Beast story.
Yeah.
But what it is it's not at all. It's something you don't bring your parents to kind of movie.
Why do you not bring your parents?
Well, my mom decided we should see a movie. Instead of seeing Jumanji, a family film where there's plenty of jokes and about video games, let's see this mysterious Beauty and the Beast creature movie that opens up with, spoiler, full frontal nudity of a girl masturbating in a bathtub.
What?
Yep. I won't say a whole lot about the movie, but
wait.
I mean, no. The first minute of the movie, it's there. I mean, opening credits, boom. And
is it
she just stares at me.
So like the Kevin Spacey opening of American Beauty where he's just jerking off in the shower?
Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
Yes.
And my mom just blank stares, looks at me, and then I'm cracking up because it's one of those really awkward moments, but we're both old. It's not that big of a deal. It's really not.
You're like, we both have kids, Mom. It's okay.
But it's just the fact you had no idea it was coming. Completely just slapped in the face with...
The trailer
boom.
wasn't like, hey, come to this movie. There's a lady masturbating in a bathtub.
Oh, and there's nudity through the whole movie.
Really?
And there's...
Do you get Abe Sapien D just swinging around?
No, it doesn't quite go to Watchmen stakes.
Okay.
There's no giant black or blue dick.
Too much Cards Against Humanity.
But yeah, that movie, it's super mature. There's great noir stuff in it.
It's funny because it looks like a odd 1940s bring your girlfriend to this it's gonna be this elegant but sci-fi but classic.
And it has all those elements.
Movie
but
thing.
The difference is it also has General Zod being this crazy asshole in the movie.
Wait, it's got
Michael Shannon.
Yeah, Eminem's dad. I always equate him to Eminem's dad. At least I got a job.
So that character, really well done, super mature, but there's just crazy stuff through this whole movie. But it seems like it weaves in and out of a classical monster story, and it's just he put his stamp on what a new classical monster story could be, and it's fantastic. But otherwise, what games have you been playing?
I finished up Just Cause 3 finally, so I went through and beat the story mode. Was for just super quick. The one thing I said, I like the gameplay of everything, and the missions kind of bore me, but they at least set up for cool specific scenarios. So one is stuff you can't do because you can jump around, you can fly around, you can blow anything.
Now, how does that differ from Saints Row? Because I feel like they both go for that same silly vibe.
They kind of have the same silly vibe. Honestly, it's the same thing, I think. I think it's the same kind of genre, but it's such a huge world. And I think it's more of a play on destruction because you're intentionally trying to blow up certain base points. So
is
it's
it lots of physics?
Of course. I love physics.
And that's why you probably picked it, is because those physics sucked you in.
Well, look, when it's all hey, if you complete this mission, we'll give you one more grappling hook so that way you can just drag stuff behind your car, because there's nothing more satisfying to me than getting a helicopter, hanging from it, latching onto a tank, swinging that tank around, just lobbing it into a train yard.
And I see, and I feel like that's what's missing about Grand Theft Auto, like, is because I know Grand Theft Auto is kind of the staple.
Grand Theft Auto has an indestructible train. Let's just acknowledge that.
But the game itself it's a setup to do anything you want except mess with the environment itself. That's like the one thing. It's kind of a stick to it.
I know a lot of our friends like Grand Theft Auto 5. I'm not the biggest fan.
Me either.
But my problem is I feel like when you're playing online, there's only a few locations on, as big as the map is, there's only a few locations that are kind of fun.
Airport, military base.
Yeah.
Skydiving everywhere.
Yes. But you know what I mean? Like, there's only a few areas on the map for how big and vast it is. It's great that it's big and vast. This, at least, when you're in a region, you're not going to remember the region, but each city feels unique and different. You're like, I'm going to go to this place and blow it up. Or you go to this one, you're like, oh, there's 2 statues I got to rip down in this one, but one's on the coast, one's over here. So you kind of have to strategically plan how you're attacking each of these bases so it's different and fun. And that's kind of the fun of the free roam aspect. And then the mission modes, which I finally beat, because I liberated everything.
I bet you did.
And then I went through and did the actual story itself.
And that's really good. I've seen the game, and I know that team worked a little bit with Final Fantasy 15 to help develop their flying car.
Yeah, because it's Square Enix.
Yep. And I kind of wanted to see how that compared, because they must have really good flight mechanics for Square Enix to bring them in for Final Fantasy.
Honestly, it's not too bad. Like, for all things, I think that the driving is not great in there. But when you're flying around with like the wingsuit and using the grappling hook to get around, it's a lot of fun.
Wingsuit sounds amazing.
Wingsuit is great because you can just grapple and then parachute around everywhere. Like I said, the main missions were cool because they do things that you couldn't do in the open-ended thing. So like one mission is like you're riding on a rocket trying to like redirect it with your grappling hooks and stuff.
Nice.
So you get to do a lot of cool, fun, specifically scenario-based things. And that's kind of cool.
And then myself, it was just the end of the year. So I was
did you finish up all your games for the year?
And see, I'm such a goal-oriented person, and I really hate starting games and not finishing them. And so I kind of ran through what I could. I finally beat Dying Light with you. That was huge.
Oh, that's right.
I played that thing for like 6 months on and off.
Isn't it weird how the last mission kicks you out, so you have to do it
crazy.
solo?
We're just playing together. Are you here?
You've been disconnected. No, and then we just beat it simultaneously on our own separate consoles because it won't let you finish.
So that's a new experience. I don't think that's ever happened in a game. I've had it where it's kicked you into like a cinema separate, but I mean, it legitimately kicked you out of the game. And we just both played it. It was kind of a simultaneous play. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
It was different. But then I also beat Lego Dimensions finally.
How do you beat a game like that?
Well, Lego Dimensions...
Because that's... Okay, for people that don't know, Lego Dimensions is kind of the same, almost like the Amiibo style where you...
Toys to Life.
Yeah, Toys to Life. That is a great way of putting it.
That's what they are. Toys to Life games where you use toys to add content to video games.
Yep.
Lego's Dimensions, the standard game, comes with all necessary Legos. And then you get to go through 20 levels, and they're all made by the same company as all the other Lego games, so it's a solid game.
Oh, nice.
And then you can obviously buy more toys and more story packs and more DLC. But I went through and I finally beat, with my wife, the entire story of the game, and it was fun. Like, there was a lot of cool stuff. Like, there's a portal level. Like, you go through 9 test chambers, and then you fight GLaDOS.
Wait, is it like actual legit, like Portal?
Oh,
like
it's Portal. Oh, yeah.
It's
licensed by Portal, and they brought a consultant in to do the levels.
Oh, that's impressive.
So, and then there's a DLC story pack you can buy with the Portal Legos, and that one was developed by them. So the puzzles are fantastic in it. Like it feels perfect.
Are they dumbed down for kids though, since them being Legos and everything?
I feel like the core one is, but the one for the DLC content is a little bit harder.
The DLC is like, you're an adult, you're buying this with your credit card, and your
like
disposable income.
Okay, no way a kid's going to pick Portal over Ninjago Legos. So we know the adults buying this one.
Just like we know who our market is on
there's
this
like
one.
There's E.T., A-Team, and Gremlin Legos. We know who you are, and you're definitely not the 8-year-old.
Anyone who gets A-Team.
A-Team, I even felt too young for.
Is the A-Team... Is the A-Team game just where you have to go and get B.A. Baracus onto a plane?
You know what's funny? I've never seen A-Team at all, but I saw the movie, the newest movie.
Oh, I'm sorry then. I don't think that's probably a good representation
of it. It put the worst taste in my mouth, and I was like, no. And then I saw the Legos. I was like, that's funny because I'm never going to play that.
Oh, man.
I was like, all I can imagine is you get a Lego van and you just blow stuff up. But I mean, besides that, I also finished Uncharted Lost Legacy.
How was that?
That was fantastic for a game that they developed in a year.
I thought you fried your game data on that.
I did. So it was saving apparently when we had a thunderstorm issue. So it reset everything in our house, and suddenly it's like, oh, your game's corrupt. So I had to replay it, but with it only being like a 12-hour game, I lost out on maybe 4 hours. So what I did, I went back and replayed it, but I just started in hard mode instead of normal.
Did you have DLC for that too?
Nope.
No.
It was DLC. It was supposed to be free with the season pass for Uncharted.
Oh, okay.
4, and they just blew it out into a full-blown game, and it was fantastic.
I'm always curious about that. Like, that is like one of the few instances where it's like, if your system goes during a thunderstorm, you got to boot up and your stuff gets corrupt. If you got to re-download the DLC, if the DLC file gets corrupt too, you know what I mean?
No, and the install was fine. I didn't have any install issues. It just said my game data wasn't there.
Okay.
So it messed with my memory itself.
Okay.
And it saved corrupted data to the cloud because, when you save on PlayStation Plus, it also puts it in the cloud for you.
I don't use the cloud at all.
Well,
I need to
you're
get
dumb
better at that.
because
I know.
it does it for free, and why not? But so it saved the corrupted data. So I was like,
trust
hey,
the cloud, man. I'm sorry.
You don't have to. It's PlayStation. It's video games. I'd rather trust the cloud than a Mad Catz card any day.
Hey, okay. Yeah. All right.
And then I guess the final.
Actually, I think they're out of business. Did you know that?
Yeah, they
like Mad Catz. Like I think they did like. So I got a buddy who does fighting tournament games, and they make really good fight sticks. Like they made crappy memory cards back in the PlayStation 1 era, but after the whole second party,
dude, it goes way beyond that. They made crappy stuff for PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2. But
over time, they started making fighting sticks, and they were making some high quality fighting sticks for the fighting game community and
Rock Band.
Were they making Rock Band equipment too?
For I think Rock Band 4, the one I have downstairs.
Did not.
I think
know
that's
that.
Mad Catz stuff.
Nice. But yeah, like I think they went out of business last year, like, which is kind of weird.
And then they're back. I just saw something maybe a couple days ago saying that I think they're coming back already. They must have found a new way to, like a new business model to keep going. But it's interesting.
Dude, Mad Catz controllers are like huge for like home fighting sticks for the fighting community.
Yeah, and then on top of that, like after I read that, I also read some more news about Telltale. That the company that makes all those walking simulator games, the ones the
Be nice now.
narrative games.
There you go.
So we obviously know that Telltale makes the Walking Dead game because that was huge news. They made Wolf Among Us.
Hold on. They did Walking Dead. They did Wolf Among Us. Jurassic Park. They did the Back to the Future game.
Wallace and Gromit.
Did they do a Wallace and Gromit?
Wallace and Gromit.
I'm pretty sure they did a Sam and Max game too.
That's what it is.
Sam and Max.
Sam and Max.
Freelance Police.
And then they did Monkey Island.
Yep.
And then they did Batman. They did
the
Guardian of the
Monkey
Galaxy.
Island, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they've just done a ton, and then
Game of
Thrones
did that
more
Batman
recently as well.
one. Ooh.
So they actually just announced that they dropped like 25% of their staff. And to me, like everyone seemed pretty shocked. And they also, I think, have a new CEO now as well. It's like they're completely rehauling their company because their model right now not working.
I hope they rehaul their engine while they're at it.
Well, that's the reason. That is the number one reason.
Did you play the latest Batman game?
Well, it's free on PlayStation Plus now, but I played it like a year ago, and it wasn't good.
Wait, is it free on PlayStation Plus?
Yeah, it's this month's PlayStation Plus game.
I don't even know if I want to download it.
No, it's a pass, dude. Don't even waste your time. Especially when you have access to like all my sweet digital games. Just play some of my games, like Edith Finch, the other game I just beat. Play it. It's awesome.
How was that? That won a bunch of awards, didn't it?
Yeah, it won Best Narrative Game and a few other awards and it's like a top 10 game pretty much throughout the entire industry.
Narrative, so it is in that same genre as like
it
the
falls in
Telltale
that
games and stuff.
Same thing. It's narrative or a walking simulator. I mean,
I'm telling you, that's like a faux pas, man. That is not a nice thing to say.
It's hard to tell because to me a narrative game. I think narrative game fits the best. It's like, hey, it's a game where you're going to walk around, but we're going to put 100% of the focus on the story of the game and not the gameplay of the game.
Okay. Well, I think that each one kind of has, because there's a couple different games that kind of handle that. Because I can think it kind of all harkens back to what I would say is like the point and click genre, which
Definitely.
is like Day of the Tentacle.
Myst.
Mist would go in there too. Yeah.
Grim
Fandango.
Grim Fandango.
Yep.
Yeah, it's definitely that. Those would be narrative games. Those are 100% relying on
Full Throttle. Those
Full Throttle.
LucasArts, man.
Yeah, totally relying on the story of the game to drive the game forward, to make you want to play more of the game.
Because otherwise, in my opinion, a narrative game is like an RPG.
It could be, but I just feel like the difference between playing like something like Edith Finch and playing something like The Witcher, at no point in the game do I lose focus of the story. Witcher, I can play hours and do nothing that will progress the story. Every footstep I take in Edith Finch is helping the story in some way.
Is there any combat in it?
There's no combat.
Oh, okay.
There's a series of mini games, but
well,
the
like Walking Dead has, where you have to like do certain things at
quick time events or
QTE.
Yeah. Or it'll have a couple like where you do walk around and it's like cinema, walk a few steps, cinema. So, they still really harken down on it's all about the story. But with Edith Finch, they find another way to bring out narrative, and that's by adding these mini stories. Every mini story has like a mini game to it. Some of them are more in depth than others.
I played Firewatch recently, actually. So same kind of genre and everything. Firewatch was pretty interesting. Like it was, I understand when like it came out. Like I'm always slow to
probably
get
3 years
stuff.
ago.
Yeah, was it 3 years?
I think it was 3 years ago. I mean, counting this is 2018, so I'm probably gonna say it came out in 2016.
Okay,
I'm not positive, but it seems like that was like Game of the Year nomination.
Well, I think
like a couple years ago.
Last podcast, I was like, Costume Quest that came out like last year, because
Yeah, but
my track for digital games as far as release dates, like
and that really screws things up a lot too when they're digital release. It almost feels like there's a delay because you may not know it actually released on that day, but they may advertise it on the Sony store like a month later, and you're like, there's a new game out.
I think Gang Beasts came out, and I've been hunting that game down for years. I think that finally came out.
Yep.
Because like I saw it,
it's in the PlayStation store.
Yeah,
and I'm like, in the discounts or whatever.
Yeah, and I'm like, when did this even release?
Yep, and that might actually be a problem with digital games right now. Is just having a better control of letting your market know games are released, but you don't follow social media at all, and usually social media now is like the best way to find out about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, I go and I check up on it every once in a while, so that way I know what's going on.
So Firewatch. So I also played it because you stole it from me technically to play it.
You let me borrow it technically.
I didn't like it as much, but I definitely qualify that as a narrative game. But I loved the beginning. The beginning brought something to the game that I have never seen in a console game. I mean, it opens up where you basically do a text story and you kind of define your character through a series of choices you make, which was amazing. And I'm not going to spoil what my choice was because it may be similar between all of them, but it was deep and it was dark.
No, I think that like the tone of the game is really what I appreciated. Anytime that like I don't play many narrative games. Normally I play games for gameplay, but I know that you're more of a story guy and a completion guy. And well, when you pick up a game, I mean, how many JRPGs do you own?
It's all about that story. All mediocre story, but I'm all in.
Yeah. But I mean, you play for story, and that's a lot of the reasons, like when we were doing the whole digital, physical, keep your games, sell your games episode, you specifically are like, yeah, if I don't want to revisit that story, I don't go back to it. Yep. So you are a story guy where hey, is it fun? Cool. Can I pick it up and play it again later?
You're like, Just Cause. I just want to blow stuff up.
Oh, dude, Just Cause is great for just blowing stuff up.
I just described you as pretty much the Fast and the Furious of video games.
I'm okay with that.
But okay, so you like Firewatch for that, but
it's the tone of the world. If you can convey a proper tone of the world to me, it works. And I feel like back in the day with the point and clicks, a lot of the graphics were not quite up to par, or if they were for the point and click, since it's just a 2D image, you had these cool, animations happening for what's going on, for what you're interacting with in the world. So if you can set up a world that I can exist in, I'm completely okay with that. And I think that Firewatch was able to capture that and allowed me to be immersed in what was happening.
Okay, now compare that to a game I know you didn't like, which was Until Dawn, which is another, to me, it's very much a narrative game.
I liked Until Dawn. I just did not like the scenario that I messed up on.
So you like the game, but you hated how you played it.
Yes, because okay, my problem with narrative games is I can never tell when there's a branching story and my decisions actually matter or not in those situations.
Unless it's David Cage.
Yeah,
Because then they pause the whole world. Pick one.
Okay, well, let's talk about David Cage then, because David Cage, director of good games, like what was the first one you played by him?
For me, it was Indigo Prophecy for Xbox.
Also
game I
known
borrowed from
as-
you. Oh, Fahrenheit.
Yeah, for the foreign viewers. I don't know if we have foreign listeners on the show.
But and then he did probably my favorite one, which is Heavy Rain, which I think that game is just phenomenal.
Okay, so I've played a little bit of that. I like the detective aspect when you're the young detective
Yep.
going around, because it had a very because when he goes into his little like detective like column research thing or whatever, it had a vibe of like Twin Peaks kind of going
Well,
on.
for anyone that hasn't really played Heavy Rain really is just a game about 3 different storylines, and it's about a serial killer who is killing kids by having them drowned. And what he does is he takes them before a big rain comes, and then it leaves basically the parent tortured trying to figure out how to save their child. And this game in particular focuses on a private eye, a detective, and a father. And it switches between the 3, and your choices through the game can change based on how well you're playing as a detective, as far as going through your evidence and following clues, your private eye, and how aggressive you're getting with the people who aren't talking, and also based on kind of who you're accusing during the course of your investigation. And then you have the father who's contemplating whether he's the killer, because he's just going crazy.
So basically, Dad's losing his mind and everything.
Rightfully so.
How more terrifying is that game now that you've birthed a child into the world?
Having children, the whole idea of your child being drowning slowly while you're trying to figure out what happened is terrifying. Even the opening scene, because it's okay to the game's obviously really old, so it's okay to spoil it. But
don't spoil too much.
the very beginning.
Hold on. To be fair, because of these games actually do multi-path off. So
Yeah. In most of the game, you have choice, but the very beginning of the game, you lose your child in the mall. And that alone is terrifying because it's so easy to do. They never stay still. And at any moment, like he pays for something he pays for something.
he buys like a balloon, I think, right?
He buys his son a balloon. He turns around and the balloon is like floating through a crowded mall.
And it's a tiny child, so all you see is this balloon.
Is the
track.
red balloon. Yeah, and of course the guy sold more than one balloon, so there are multiple people with balloons in the mall. And that alone is terrifying enough. And it really strikes a dark feeling through that whole game. And then they started there. I mean, they every moment of the game, you're like really tied to children. And as a parent, I think that game ties even deeper. But then they have other games that don't necessarily tie to children, but stay just as mature, and I love it.
Beyond Two Souls, right?
Yep.
Another game by him.
What's that really old one that you played, the Nomad one?
Oh no, that was their first game. I was gonna say their new game is
Becoming Human.
Becoming Human. But a lot of the futuristic thing is something that David Cage did in like a very early game. I believe it was Omicron, the Nomad Soul. It was like his first game, but the main reason why I know that is because they actually had David Bowie do a bunch of stuff for that. So he did like the soundtrack for the game, and I think he was used in the promotional artwork. I think he was a character. I can't quite remember.
I mean, so with all these experiences, it seems like we played a lot of them between the two of us. Now, what would you really say that is the best experience? Like, what is the single-handedly the thing you remember most from one of those games?
I would say kind of the evolution of each one, because each one kind of has a distinct feel. Because now that I've played Until Dawn, because I did that I think like over winter or so, that kind of upped the ante for like how things are done, because they had some pretty good actors in there and everything. They had the dude from Mr. Robot in it.
Yep.
So that was pretty cool. That was like he gave a really good performance in that. And then I got to think of, I did point and clicks back in the day, which I wasn't the biggest fan of, but they were,
But what
fun and interesting.
Out of all these games, though, what really stands out? Like for me, to help you, like I remember you and Casey playing Indigo Prophecy, trying to get the girl.
I was getting to that.
Yeah,
Hold on.
I remember that, but I personally played Beyond Two Souls. there's a scene in it where you help, like you talk to all these people. It's about being homeless. There's a scene in it where you're homeless and you help homeless people escape from a fire, a building on fire, and it is just spot on amazing. And that game, even if the sum of all parts kind of fails, there's a few scenes in that game that just are just perfect.
Well, that's why I like David Cage and what he's doing with that genre as a whole. His Indigo Prophecy was I got recommended that actually from old G4 TV. Like Kevin Pereira used to do this, like games that you need to go out and buy, weird indie games on Friday or something. And I remember that game had released, and it had released as like a discount game. So it was like $30 at Best Buy. And then Best Buy is like, hey, any game $30 or more is $10 off. And then on there, they had like new sticker day. So it's $5 off that. So like, I think I picked it up for like $15 and I absolutely fell in love with it. But that was kind of the first solid narrative game or newer narrative game that I locked onto and really enjoyed.
Yeah, I just remember I came over one day. You and Casey were there's a scene in the game where you basically have a date with a girl.
It's your ex-girlfriend comes back to your house to pick up the stuff and everything. And my buddy Casey went and was trying to he's like, oh yeah.
You say Casey, you did it too. Don't lie. Just
no, what?
You and Casey were both trying to get her naked.
No, I managed narrative wise the way that I played it. She ended up staying the night with me. I'm all somber, playing guitar and everything, and being like, oh, I'm going to talk about my feelings, blah, blah, blah. We shouldn't have this breakup, all that. And then Casey went and when he played through, he's like, wait, you got her to stay the night? I didn't. How did you do that? Let me borrow the game again. And then he went back to try to.
And I just remember you guys were arguing over what decisions to make to lure her to stay the night.
He's like, I played the guitar. I tried to go and serenade her.
And I was like, wait a minute, this has the Theory of a Deadman soundtrack? Because at the time, I hadn't played the game yet, but I loved Theory of a Deadman because they had just come out with their first CD or their second CD. And they were like, hey, the whole Theory of a Deadman CD is on this game.
Pretty much.
Through a series of soundtrack spots, stereos and almost kind of like music video scenes, where you're using the punching bag.
Oh, yeah.
It felt just like a music video. It's like a quick time event punching bag with Theory of a Deadman.
That would be a good thing we should jump into sometime is music videos for games.
Yep.
There's some good stuff
but
there.
I mean, once I played that game, it kind of opened a whole new door to because I love story. Because I mean, even back to PlayStation 1, I was all about RPGs because I loved the stories they told. That game was like, wait a minute, I can have stories without the 50 hours of gameplay that goes with it. That's fantastic.
Well, and that's the thing. I think that the style kind of limits itself as far as time frame goes because these games aren't really long. Because I think Firewatch got blasted for being a 4-hour game is what they said. And then
and Edith Finch is 2.5 hours and it's winning awards. So I feel like people are changing their perception because let's face it, if it's a walking type game, no one wants to just walk around for 6 hours. They don't. They cut to the point. Let's get the story for what it is, trim all the fat and have just one solid experience.
See, I'm at least liking when they change it up and give you certain things like Telltale for like you said, Telltale does their games in seasons. They do
episodic seasons.
So that was kind of nice, but there's still at least some sort of, they at least took the point and click genre and figured out a way to add action to it. Cause that opening sequence in Walking Dead season 1, where the zombie comes at you and you use the right stick to go and aim it in a direction so that way you kick him in the face.
They tied
point and click handcuffs and stuff. They tied point and click with a more
modern
action
controls,
with more action thing. Cause their prior games weren't that great.
They were terrible.
I mean, okay, I own Back to the Future for PlayStation 3.
I have it for Wii, which is even worse because the Wiimote is already a terrible controller. So now add motion controls with the Wiimote.
Well, they did what? They did Back to the Future, then they got their license for Jurassic Park.
Which, I played.
You're a huge Jurassic Park fan.
I was a huge Jurassic Park fan, and I was ecstatic about that. Okay, I still am. Jurassic World, not as good, but good enough.
You have the lanyard for the park pass in your car hanging up.
Yep. And
I'm just saying, you had all the toys growing up.
you're just jealous.
I am. My parents never bought me cool
My
toys.
T-Rex still works.
I wish.
Same batteries. 25 years
Really?
later, it still makes the roar noise on like what probably watch
Does it
batteries.
have the battle damage? Remember that? That was the selling
Oh,
point.
I'll show you the whole set of battle damaged dinosaurs.
I'm totally down for that. But
But no, yes, I played the Jurassic Park QuickTime game because that's all it was. Instead of making it where you actually use controls and play into the game, it completely separated from here's some story. Oh, now it's a QuickTime event, and now it's not again, and now it is again. And if you mess up twice, it you lose. Play it again.
well, at least they went from that to being more action orientated with the Walking Dead stuff. But I tried to get into their stuff recently, and it was just not. I tried to do Batman, and it just was. Their engine needs to be updated.
The game plays just like Walking Dead did, which is Walking Dead season 1 was fantastic. Everyone loved it, but I think Telltale got lost.
I heard Wolf Among Us was really good. I bought that for a friend that was a big fan of the comic book series Fables.
Yep, and I have it, and I played it, and I loved it. But I feel like that's where they peaked on doing everything exactly the same as Walking Dead. It's like, okay, now that you've made a couple of critical hits, now how can you improve upon those hits? Their idea was, let's just do new stories. That's not enough. The same, and then when you have multiple seasons, I guess I'm okay with the same mechanics because it kind of follows the flow of the game because it still feels like the same show or episodes. But when they come out with Guardians of the Galaxy, that's brand new. After seeing that movie in theaters, you're like, their CG is awesome. Why am I playing a game that's kind of cel shaded with terrible dialogue and it's super slow and not fun?
All right. Well, what would you want then? What would you want different then? Is it just graphics with you then? Because I mean, if you want that, then stick to the David Cage thing. Because he, what was it? Detroit Becoming Human or whatever.
It looks phenomenal.
I mean, he teased, what is it? Because I think one of the trailers has the Kara character that he teased and he's like, oh, look, this is our new engine. And everyone's like, is that a real person? It's not a real person. And graphics fade over time though, in my opinion. And cel shading retains that. So at least Walking Dead is going to look as good as it does now when you pick it up 20 years.
It's not the graphics that's the problem. It's the clipping between scenes that should have been resolved after the very first game.
I always had a problem with their loading times.
Long loading times on a digitally downloaded game still blows my mind. Not to mention freezing. Games that have no discs that freeze.
Wait, do you have a digital copy?
Yeah, I paid like $7 for all of their games as one digital package. So although I own a couple on disc, I own all of their games now, all in digital form for a couple dollars.
I thought that was just a problem with the disc loading here.
Absolutely not. And Telltale's quality, I feel like, is subpar all the way through, and they've shown no way of improving that. Not loading times, not clipping issues, and their stories. A new IP doesn't automatically give you an opportunity to make a subpar story to build on. They have to bring not only new content, but a new way of looking at content. They can't just keep making the same thing.
Okay. Do you at least like their storytelling format?
The episodic format of, next time on Walking Dead, and I actually still don't mind it. And with Life is Strange, which is a more recent narrative game that came out.
As Square Enix, actually.
Square Enix published it.
Maybe they'll do a Just Cause one.
All you do is go around pressing buttons and blowing stuff up.
Blow stuff up.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Yeah. But, they did it. But instead of doing it, Walking Dead, I feel like at first their episodes were too far away. It's like, every 3 months you're getting a new episode. I guess their stories are not grappling enough where I care after a month. Like, okay, it's been a week. I'm ready to play it. Oh, if I'm not going to play it, I'm going to start playing Assassin's Creed. You're never going to see me again.
Do they just need more writers? Do they need to kind of do the comic book scenario? I mean, because you're a big comic book guy, right?
Yeah. And it is kind of like comic books.
Because, I mean, is that the format that you're craving then with it? Would you like it if they just had, even though their engine is kind of crappy and they have it all formulaic, would you like it if they went and, if they're like, hey, Dave, here you go, man. Here's 15 different writers working on 15 different games, so we're releasing stuff more often, even though the quality is what the quality's at.
And I don't think that would work.
Really?
To me, it's not a quantity issue because even now there's 2 or 3 kind of going in a given year, and it's a quality issue. Batman, they could say we have every episode of Batman available now. Am I running to it? No, because I already know what I'm expecting from it. And if they were going to give me 15 more comic book Telltale games, I already know that they're going to be like Guardians or like Batman. I'm not going to want to play them. But they're like, hey, we're only doing 1 next year, but guess what we're doing? We're trying something new. Hey, I'm interested because they're looking into doing something new, or even better.
Does that make sense from a sales perspective? You're the sales guy, man.
Yeah, and I liked what they did. The whole episodic thing was kind of nice, especially because at some point they would be like, hey, you can have the first episode free. You can reel me in a little bit. But I don't, like, it's not a bad model. But I think their issue is there's just nothing gravitating me into playing the games. If they can't get me to play a free demo, I'm not going to want to buy the game.
If it's IPs that you love, though, that's where their thing is. They've always started with, hey, we have Back to the Future. Hey, we have Jurassic Park. Hey, we have Game of Thrones, you know?
And it worked for a while, but I feel like things are changing in the industry, and they're not changing with the industry.
My thing is I never felt like there was weight and validity behind your decisions.
Depending on the game, I think.
No, I'm saying like for the Telltale stuff.
Yep.
I feel like with Indigo Prophecy, that was one of the first games that made me feel, hey, like I said, that whole conversation with Casey where I'm like, hey, man, I went and I did this. And he's like, oh, well, I didn't get that. And he's like, this character died at the end. And I'm like, how did you end up killing a character?
Yep, and with their weight, Telltale does weight differently than David Cage does weight. David Cage likes to put a lot of weight in one scene, where he'll have a ton of different options, and you can really change how the game plays in a scene. But Telltale,
new trailer though for Detroit that I watched that you sent me, looks like it's got choices per scene, but then it looks like that's going to ultimately, hopefully, carry over into other stuff because it kind of did like this. Here's a scene, here's another scene, and then here's a spiderweb. Plus, I got to at least say this, too, from the gameplay trailer. Because I'm like, what are you going to show me with a gameplay trailer? You're walking around clicking stuff.
Exactly.
But it shows you your actions. So, because I feel like sometimes it's vague in text descriptions where it's like, go hide. Well, what place am I going to hide? If the character's picking a bad hiding spot, that's bad. But if it's showing me where they're going to go hide and I have a visual representation to be like, yes, that is a spot that looks like I'm going to be well hidden in.
Yep, and they have that, but Telltale, what they do is they do a slow burn. They're like, oh, you make a bunch of choices and characters in the game remember things. And then something big will come up and be like, oh, since you made all these bad choices towards this character, he's not going to follow you. So what they do is they kind of like, they give you lots of options, but in the end, you're either getting A or B story. And now you have to kind of, and then with it being episodic with more than one season, now you're looking at, you have A or B, and then you start the next season with A or B, and then that can turn into something else. So it kind of pulls the gravity through all the seasons.
Wait, have you ever tried to play one of those games at like episode 3 in of the season without playing the previous episodes?
I did.
Let you?
I did it with Walking Dead, actually, because what happened between Walking Dead season 1 and season 2, I got a new PlayStation 4.
Okay.
And you couldn't play season 1 on PS4 yet. They hadn't carried it over yet, so there was no way to play it. And so it didn't remember that I had played it. So what it did in the start, it asked me what decisions I made.
Okay.
It gave me kind of like, I preset my tree, or you can just take their default setting and not pick anything and be like, just start the game. So they've kind of been nice with that particular series to at least make you feel like your consequences matter a little bit throughout the whole series. But I don't know. I think I still prefer David Cage's. His are much harder. They hit a lot harder. But in the end of the game, I feel like I didn't save those homeless people in the building. It didn't really affect my game that much. But in the moment, I felt like it affected it completely. Like it affected me, not the story.
So the story narrative is really kind of like moment by moment thing, because I guess that is your interaction then, you know?
Yep. And I don't know. I love David Cage's work, and he gets a lot of heat for his stories not necessarily always being good enough, but I think narrative games have gotten to a point where they're hard to rate as games because when you watch it and play it, it has enough movie to it that I can't compare it to Assassin's Creed. They play so different that sometimes I feel like they rag on David Cage's style and treat it too much like a game when parts of it are like a movie. They don't give him enough credit for the things he does right, and they only hate on him for, oh, well, the gameplay wasn't perfect. No, that's not what the game's about. Like, you don't have to focus everything. Oh, it got a 6 out of 10 because walking was kind of funny. Like, come on.
What?
I remember in Heavy Rain was where it was really pushed down on was how the walking motions worked in it.
Did you ever play the director's cut of that real quick? I'm curious because it had motion control
Move
for that,
controls.
right?
I actually did one scene with the move.
How was
I did the
it?
car scene where you're driving
driving?
against traffic, where you like move your body back and forth. It felt good, but it didn't feel necessary. Like it did. I don't think it really added enough to it to make it reasonably worth having move just like every other game.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of gimmicky. I don't know. You think they could ever do something in VR with that? Do you think that would work out?
Narrative games in VR has a lot of potential. Like I'm thinking, remember, did you end up playing PT, the demo?
Yes.
Imagine PT in VR.
Or sorry, no, I didn't play PT. I played Resident Evil.
Oh, well, take Resident Evil and just take out the monsters. So walking around creepy environments and just be...
See, I feel like VR would do really well for Firewatch. Firewatch, I feel like actually would be legit. But at the same time...
Cell shading in VR, though, I don't know how that would feel.
I don't think a David Cage game would work well, though, in VR because they take control of the camera so often.
You're in third person too often to make it not... I think it wouldn't work out very well.
I think you could make a good first person narrative, though. Like I said, Firewatch was
Edith Finch,
wonderful.
You couldn't do it because of the mini games themselves, unless somehow they made the mini games all of VR type mini games, which mini games are perfect for VR currently. So, I mean, most of them are.
Yeah.
But if Firewatch would be a good example. That Rapture one would be one too.
Oh, everyone's going to Rapture?
Yeah, everyone goes to Rapture. How that game is made, I think you could do that in VR, and I don't think it would change anything. But you may feel like you're in the environment. Imagine Unfinished Swan. Unfinished Swan in VR.
Does that count as a walking simulator?
I would count as a
or
walking
a narrative game or whatever we're calling them now.
Yeah, I mean, all you're doing is painting stuff. You're just whipping paint at stuff. So I mean,
it's such a beautifully.
But the paint doesn't make the game what it is. The paint adds an art style to it, but your enjoyment from the game is like, oh man, I got to throw paint at stuff. That's not why you love the game. You love the game because of the music. And
the music is beautiful in that game.
The slow mystery to the game. Like there's so many more things to that game that make you like it. And
I'm surprised that they haven't done horror more often.
They haven't touched it.
Like I said, Until Dawn did it pretty well.
I feel like Slender Man a little bit, or Fatal Frame. Does Fatal Frame count? Because I mean, really, I don't know how much the
Fatal Frame I thought was a survival horror, but
it is. But I guess no, I wouldn't count that one because of all the stuff with the camera. But they could make one. They could totally make one where all you are Pokemon Snap. I mean, think about it, like real basic design, but
I think that's a whole different genre than you going around taking pictures of stuff.
But if they didn't make it a
photography sim,
if like with Fatal Frame, imagine if it was a story about a haunted house where you could take pictures of ghosts, but they didn't you didn't do anything to the photos. You simply just took pictures, and it just followed a story of why the house was haunted. It would be a narrative game because it would be about the house and about the person walking through it. A lot less than Fatal Frame, where hey, you can hurt enemies by taking pictures of them. So I feel like there's opportunity in the horror industry for that, or the horror genre, I should say.
I'm trying to think then, because there's a lot of old PC games that I feel like could actually benefit from that. And I know we're couch, but I got that history with PC a little bit. But there was a game that I played back in the day that was really good, done by Roberta Williams. Phantasmagoria is probably one of the
I've never heard of that one.
It was like a full motion video point and click thing.
Really?
And it was so good, and it was gory, and they did actual film special effects. And that would be cool to actually see, kind of redone in a newer style and everything.
I feel like right now with the horror genre, I think is growing a little bit, especially because of VR. Because you have games like Soma are doing well right now. You have Resident Evil 7 did really well this year.
7 was fun.
And Slender Man's done well for what it is. Outlast Outlast kind of has its own niche market. You have the Friday the 13th game that came out. So there's a lot of games I think that are starting to come up. And then with like the super success of it, people obviously like scary stuff. Yeah. And I think it's finally making a comeback. And I'm really hoping they see that in the narrative.
Well, Dying Light that we played earlier.
Dying Light, I think there's quite a bit of
scare. They added a whole bunch
of
DLC to their. Well, how long did we like avoid going out at night in that game?
Exactly. There was a real fear of going out at night in that game.
You would get your ass beat if you went too far off track.
And it's especially fun when we get like 4 of us playing, and then it's night. Oh, we're getting chased down, and then and instead of being like educated gamers, we do the same thing the movies do. Everyone ends up scrambling into different directions, and we get picked off one by one. It happens just like the movie, even though we know it's going to happen.
But back on narrative games, where do you kind of see stuff going with like you as, because I mean you love story in games. Are you going to try to give Telltale like chance and money if stuff like what's
honestly I think I'm pretty much banning Telltale for now. I've played all of their games up to PlayStation 4. Because I bought the whole set and I played through all of them, even the bad ones. I at least played them because I completionist. When I'm like, oh, I've beat 12 of 15 of them, or whatever the number is. I'm like, yeah, I'll get through the first few, and it's kind of nice to see where the genre kind of came from from them personally. But I already pre-ordered Detroit Becoming Human. That game has me sold from the minute I saw the video, and I am so excited to see where he takes it.
I like the way that he's been conducting stuff because it is a very nice interactive movie. I mean,
yep. And then there's also a couple other games that like Firewatch. I didn't get Firewatch when it came out or when it was popular. I got it after the Game Awards where people kept mentioning its name. I was like, there has to be something about that game that makes it worth playing, and I'm probably gonna go back and play through it, especially now that you've played it.
I hope you do.
Yeah, because I felt like I was okay far into it, like far enough where I feel like I can continue playing where I left off, but I may just start it over just because.
The voice acting in that is fantastic. The exchange of dialogue, like using the radio as a device. Like I said, it's the immersion of the theme of what's going on in the world and how you can get put into that for that story. Because that's why people read books. That's why people read comics.
And there's 2 other ones. Gone Home that one got a lot of praise. That I never tried it. It's apparently about a house. I don't know a whole lot about it, which is fine. I
think that based on what you said for Edith Finch for a minute there, when you were like telling me about it at first, I was like, "Are you talking about?" I thought you were talking about that game. So.
Yeah, and there's a lot. I think there was a little bit of confusion, but I've heard there's a drastic difference. But they also just released Tacoma this year, which is a space walking simulator, which is funny because you're not really walking in space. But so there's a couple of the more indie type ones that I'm interested in.
Stanley Parable. I hope that makes it to console. That way you can actually play that. I played a little bit of that.
And you said that one's based on humor, right?
Oh, dude, that is just riotly good.
And unfortunately, I don't play games to be funny.
No, okay. You played Portal and you enjoyed the humor in that. It has Portal-esque style humor.
Okay. Yeah, because the straight out gag humor, I'm just not a fan of. Like I played Job Simulator. That was kind of fun.
Oh, I enjoyed Job Simulator.
Like, that was fun. It was kind of jokey, and that was fine. But I don't know. Like I definitely see it's a very narrow genre. Even now, I mean, there's awards every year for it, but there's like, hey, these are the 6 games that came out this year. It's like picking an animated movie of the year for the Academy Award. Okay, out of the 6 movies that came out, which one won? So it's a small genre, but
Did you play Not a Hero?
No, I haven't played Not a Hero.
I beat that too, actually. That's also on my list of stuff that I beat. But that was a really had some good humor to it.
Even like after this conversation, I'm hoping you actually play Edith Finch because, like I said, a super small commitment of 2 hours, and there's one physics mini game in there. I think you're gonna truly enjoy.
And you said it was a 2-hour game. If it's got physics, it's a 4-hour game for me.
You don't control the speed of the mini game, so the physics are still very, very limited. But
I'll find a way to drag out time on that. I love physics.
And there are a couple things you can do with it. So I'm hoping you kind of explore that a little bit. But I think Firewatch is really the only game I'm gonna play in that genre until something like Detroit comes out, which I'm hoping it better come out by the summer.
So David Cage game excited for then, and Telltale, you're going to wait till they do some sort of change, at least a graphic update or something on the engine?
I'm hoping with a smaller workforce and a CEO change, I'm hoping that really shows that company that they need to do something new. And I'm honestly hoping between Detroit coming out and some of these other really creative narrative games that it shows the industry that people are looking for more experience, like solo experience. Episodic experiences just don't work the same as they used to. We've become smart to that model. Even Life is Strange, loved the first one. I have heard the second one's not selling as well. And it's not selling as well because you already sold me on 3 episodes with a story about a young girl going through some like real life stuff. You've sold that. What are you bringing to me to make it a better experience? They don't have an answer.
Well, I think that's where David Cage is at least stepping up, because he keeps doing this weird, expansive story where everything you do kind of does something and changes something. So I'm really excited for that. And
if there's anyone out there that has a game to provide for us, I mean, any kind of game out there that's a narrative or near narrative or just a game with a really great story, I would actually love to hear about it. Because as long as I'm looking for new games, especially in the winter time, because it's kind of a slow season for new games, let us know, especially on our Facebook, our Twitter, or if you know us personally, just let us know about the games, because there's a lot of opportunity out there for stories like these that I would love to play.
Man, I guess that's our show for this week.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
Thank you for listening to the Couch Trolls podcast. If you like this episode, you can find more on Facebook by searching Couch Trolls or on Twitter at Couch_Trolls. I'm your announcer, Canada Sanchez, with Brian doing the sound. Thanks for listening.